Привет, greetings from Odessa. So it is late March in 2026. Just an update on what it's like on the ground here in Ukraine. We just had the bells ring out for the cathedral, so I had to take a take two on this video. You can see it right behind me. You can see lots of children out playing in the playground. That is the reality here, that life goes on in spite of the Russo-Ukrainian war entering, I guess at this point, its 13th year. Well, it's been over 12 years of it if we start the counter in early 2014, just after the Euromaidan revolution and Russia's invasion, which was limited to Crimea and parts of the Donbass back then. Obviously in 2022 it extended quite considerably and everywhere was under and has been consistently under attack. We do have air alerts every day here in Odessa, but people have become used to it after over 4 years since the 2022 Russian invasion, and people do their best to continue with life. You have this whole, I guess, new generation of Ukrainians growing up with the echoes of war going on around them. Everything still pretty much works here. Of course, we have curfew. Of course, it's not like peacetime situation, but remarkably, there's food in the shops, the restaurants work, the cafes, your cards. Pretty much it is life as normal outside of curfew and the air alerts and the attacks on the city that do happen. I filmed that reportage across the street from one of the synagogues here in Odessa in the historic center about a week ago, and we've seen a Russian kamikaze drone attack on the UNESCO World Heritage Site of historic Lviv, and it hit a monastery there. But in spite of that, Ukraine reports that they are shooting down a way higher percentage of Russian munitions than previously. They have developed these interceptor drones, so that is protecting the city a lot. And I have noticed in the last few weeks a decrease in the number of attacks overall against Ukraine since the launch of Operation Epic Fury by the US and Israel in the Middle East against Iran. So whatever is going on, Russia seems to be firing less munitions at Ukraine since then, even though we'd have that big attack about a week ago and, well, a few days ago when they hit the center of Lviv. So in spite of that, life goes on. It's pretty much outside of curfew, as I said, outside of air alerts that go off a few hours a day, and maybe there's an attack on the city somewhere. Everybody gets on with their life. It's pretty remarkable, the human condition and how we adapt to things. I guess if we look at human history, then warfare was always part of it in a wartime situation, pretty much for thousands of years at this point. So humans, we adapt and we get on with things and we adjust and make the most of it. So that is an update from the ground. I see a little bit of inflation in the price in the shops and the restaurants compared to before. I always talk about on my lifestyle channel about the flat white index, and it's gone up a little bit, maybe about 10%. So we do also have, that's represented, I think, in the supermarkets and the restaurants in general. Prices have gone up a little bit in the last few months. So that's a correction. I'm not sure how much of it is really a result of the war in the Middle East, because the oil price has gone up and that affects everything. So we have a little bit of inflation compared to before. But outside of that, pretty much everything works. Well, everything does work, just a little bit of a higher price. And Ukraine here still resists. And what we've seen on the front lines is Ukraine, with some counterattacks in the last month, has taken back, it was like a little bit under 500 square kilometers of territory. Now that represents 0.1% of Ukrainian territory. But it's the first time since 2023 we've actually seen Ukraine consistently roll back the Russians on the front line. So we'll see as we go into the summer whether Ukraine can continue that momentum or if it gets reversed by some new Russian counteroffensive. But for now, most of the indicators still point towards Ukraine ultimately prevailing and defending and protecting its sovereignty as an independent state outside of Moscow's orbit whenever this war concludes. So that's my update for spring. There you see, everybody's in a good mood, it seems, around me, all the kids, in spite of the war. And do pobaczenia from Odessa Mama on this beautiful spring afternoon. Do peremоги.